Is it working yet?
No.
Cry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Alright, so I showed you last week how to make animation layers and how to do like basic animation, like how to just have an animation layer that you can move stuff with keyframes. Do you remember that? So you set an animation layer, just like click here, go to ABS, and you'll make an animation layer. And then you need to hit the green button to make sure it animates. So let me just make a copy of this scene and start all over again. So I'll just delete my animation and start from scratch. Is that saved? Yes. So I'll delete that. So basically you start like this. Let me hide that text so it stops getting in the way. And just select any of the bones, click add layer, add an absolute layer, press play, and you're ready to begin recording. Now be careful, you need to have the auto button on. That needs to be turned on to make keyframes. Otherwise what you're doing is you're just moving stuff and it won't keyframe. So let me just show you an example. If I go to 15 and I just move her pelvis down. Auto isn't on, so it doesn't do anything. It just basically moves it down for all the frames. However, if I have auto on, it automatically makes a keyframe at the start when I move it, and it makes a keyframe where I am. So it does. So I can animate. Cool? Does that show up yet?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Alright, so let me do a walk cycle, which is probably the most common thing that you'll have to do. Actually, let me do an idle cycle first. So what I'll do is I'll go to time configuration here and just set the time, the length of time to, I'm going to set it to 100 frames. Alright, so if I press play, you'll kind of see that's how long it takes to go to 100 frames, and it'll loop. You can change that setting, by the way, in the time configuration. You can change it so where it says up here playback, real time, you can change it to loop or not loop. You can change the speed of the playback. Okay, so let me do that. And then what I would always do is always work from the inside out. So like work from the pelvis, because that's where everything kind of moves around. Work from there and get that working before you get everything else working. Do you remember the animation in first year where we did like the bouncing, like kind of like stuff, and we used the torso first? Same exact thing. So I'm going to do the pelvis first. So I'm just going to start off by getting her first frame correct. So like her first frame of where she's idling. So the last one I just kind of did like a, she had like a sticking her leg out pose. And remember my auto is on, so that's fine. And I can move the where the knee rotates using the knee tool. And let me like kick at her. Do it that way. Yeah, do a little sass. So I'm just working only on the like the pelvis first and the legs before I start moving up to the upper body. So then I can go up to the upper body, animate that. So rotate that. Give her a little cock of the. It's an actual word, like I'm like ithurgers. Give it a little kind of like bend and I'll bend it backwards a bit. So she's kind of like that kind of thing. And where these elbows are, those elbow up nodes are where the elbows will point towards. So I'll show you. I grab the palm and everything's animated mostly from the palm. You see the way, no matter what I move, the elbow is pointing towards that blue. Let's put the palm on our hips. And try to change rotation to local. Sometimes it makes it easier. Cool. And if like if I wanted her other arm to be like bending that way, I would need the up node to be below. So then the elbow would go below. So let me do that. it's recorded anyway, so she's kind of doing a weird, silly thing. All right, and then her head will be straight, looking at the camera, and done. So that's the first frame done. Okay, so that's my first entire frame. I don't need to do all 100 frames. I just need to do the first one. Is it frozen again?
You're offline again. Use cover bomb.
Do you just want to just watch it here? I know it's a small screen, but I don't
Better
think
than this.
Yeah.
Fucking projected pictures. This color is killing me.
Yeah. Cool. So once I have that first frame, what I need to be really careful of, if I double click the pelvis, it'll select all the bones. And I'm going to hit this lock, this set keys. This will set keys. So this will set a rotation key, rotation, position, and scale keys. So those are the three kind of things you can have. It's the same as the Unity one. If I click this, it will set rotation, position, and scale keys for every single bone because I'm selecting all the bones. If I do that, just click that. That means no matter what I do, it will not affect those. At this frame, it's set and locked, and you need to have that. Do it at the end as well, because I'm gonna, loop back to that same frame. And the reason why you have that is I might be doing more animations here, and they will affect stuff before them. If I lock it, it won't. Okay, so just always remember lock the front, lock the end. So let me do the middle, and I'll just do a really simple, like she just kind of, I don't know, stands. Okay, it just kind of does that. So you can see like the pelvis moves up and down a little bit. And I can do like rotation with so then like her shoulders rotate as well, and I can make the head rotate. Okay, so that's kind of like the hair, and now I'll just make sure the hands work. So like always work from the bigger body parts there first, because you never know what it's going to do to the hands and to the legs and stuff. So just work with those first. That one needs to come here. And if you fuck up with any of them, it's grand. Just delete that frame. Just select it, delete it. The only thing that you need to be worried about is the arms. They're weird. So for a normal one, if I grab this, let's say I move there, and I delete, and I'm like, oh, I don't like that, that's real dumb. I'll just delete that, and it's fine, it goes back. The hands are weird though, so let me just show you. If I do here, let's say I do like that, right, and I think it's really dumb, I'm like, that's so stupid. If I just delete that, it doesn't delete all of them. It's really annoying. It actually adds frames to the upper arm, and whenever you move the palm, it adds frames to these two as well. So you need to select all of them and then delete all of them, and then it goes back. It's really annoying.
Why doesn't it do that for the legs?
I don't know. The legs and the hands work differently. Just FYI, the hands are like that. And then let's just make it do like that, like that. And then the other thing as well that's really nice to have, once you have everything moving, you can now do secondary animations. So like that's her base body. So let me try and do her earrings. So she's looking up like that, which means I'll leave her earrings to like stay. Is that correct? So like they kind of take a while to follow her, and because she snaps and goes back, the earrings will keep going. So they'll kind of like snap that way, go like that. Does that work? So you can see the earrings kind of like move after her head. So you just make sure you have the larger body parts first, and then the secondary animations. And then same with the hair. She'll probably, that probably will flick this way, I want to say. And because I have them all selected, they all rotate together. Let's rotate that back. I can change that frame here, but I just need to remember to copy that back. Because if I don't, I'll show you what happens. It'll go there and snap back there. So I just need to remember to select, hold shift and drag to copy, and that should override. Cool. Grand. So that's an idle, done. Again, super make sure everything here has a lock there, because I'm going to go on to do another animation now. So that's finished. I press play. Yeah, like it's a super simple idle, but it works. So let me do a walk now. So using the same timeline, I'm still in the same layer, just go to time configuration. I'm finished at 100, right? I usually like to have a text file or something, or some place that I write down what I have. So I know that 1 to 100 is my my idle. So I can go to like 101 to, let's go 130, let's say. There's no hard rules for how long anything should last. And then I'll put the first frame here of the walk cycle. So let's give her, I'm going to give her a really generic like game walk cycle just so you can see how to do it. Because she had a weird walk cycle in the one that I showed you. So when you do a walk cycle, again, the same as your first year animation, it's literally like just have your first frame be her in the middle of a run. So make sure the knees aim forwards because they're running, and that foot should probably aim forwards back again. Back to view rotation. So sometimes you do want view rotation and sometimes you want local. Cool, so let's have that foot be the one going forwards, let's say. And you can, I have a foot so I can rotate the foot going forwards. And I'll have that one going back. I'll do a walk, not a run cycle. And then the hand is always the opposite of whichever one is forward. The opposite hand goes backwards. Otherwise, it looks really weird. And then this one needs. We'll be nearly finished. And if you want, you can like do like the little clenched fists or whatever to show they're running. Oops, the other wrong way. So it's little clenched fists and this one as well. It's a little awkward. Takes time to get used to. There we go. Cool. And then once again, oh, her hair is probably not. Let's keep it straight for now. I'm not sure what it should do. So I'll lock that. Yeah, I probably should do that, but I'll leave that till the end. So I'm just going to lock and do the major body parts first, and then like I did for the last one, once the whole animation's done, I'll go back and make sure the secondaries work correctly. It's just a lot easier. Okay, cool. So it's doing that, starting at that and ending at that. Grand. So the middle one is literally just the opposite. So that's kind of handy. Just need to get this. Is yours working, Daria? Okay. I don't know why.
It's starting to work. I can see working on a couple screens now, so.
I just kind of check to make sure that they're going back the same distance. And the hands do exactly the opposite of what each other do. Cool. So if I press play, it looks like a really dumb walk. It's like a really crappy walk. But that's fine, like it's grand for what I have. So again, if I know that that's definitely what it's going to look like in the middle, select everything, lock it. So now it's definitely locked. Cool. Now to just make this good, I don't know if you remember from first year, you just need to add the pelvis stuff, that little sine wave curve. So it's going to go down and up, and I can just copy that over there. So it'll go down, up, down, up. which already looks a lot better. It's still not perfect, but it looks already a lot less stupid.
You want to do like a little head motion as well, right?
Well, like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So the pelvis is the most important one, but that already looks a lot better. And then when you walk, you hit the ground, your pelvis hits the ground, but your chest also needs to like follow. And generally the chest follows a little bit after. So I'll just rotate that forwards. And again, you can just copy that rotation to the other side. So now like goes, and it looks a lot better. And then finally, we can do a little head rotation as well. So the head rotates forwards. Is that too much? Cool. Alright, and if I press play, looks a lot better. The legs are still a bit wonky. They look like they're on rollerblades or something. So I'll deal with the legs now. So the legs are the last part, the hardest part. So I can, but I'll do that all the way to the end. I'll do it all the way to the end. I won't do it now. So I just want to make sure that, so the leg, I want to keep that forwards because it's like she's planting her weight on it. And the trailing leg, I actually wanted to lift up because it's lifting to kind of like aim forwards. And that looks a lot better. Okay, I'm going to do that for the other one as well. So again, she plants her foot forward to put her weight on it. And the trailing leg actually trails behind. Oh, sugar. And kicks off the floor. So trailing leg trails behind and also kicks off the floor. So now we look at it as a whole, it's much better. And if we want to do a hip wiggle, it's a little complicated because we'll probably need to edit the start frame. So I'll probably have to, when you put your leg forward, your hip pushes that way. And if you're not sure, just like literally just try and do a walk. It's really dumb, but like just try and do it. So I'm going to do the hip first. So hip, and then I'll snap it to the other side.
Jaunty.
I know, yeah. It's very jaunty. I kind of like it. Can we leave it like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And remember to copy it again and paste it to the end. And I'll need to adjust the upper body. I need to adjust the upper body to compensate as well. No, it's because her upper body wasn't compensating. So if you see now, if I compensate with the upper body, it should look more like a hip wiggle. That's it.
Somebody put this video this and tweet Ariane from this. See if you get this.
Oh, it's way more hip. It's because it's the top of her body now. I've left it so wherever it has keyframes, it rotates contrapost to the hip. Copy the first frame to the end, and now it's a bit more sassy than like jaunty. A bit more. Still kind of jaunty.
She looks like a mother going for like a speed walk with her chihuahuas. Like, oh.
So specific.
Very specific.
Paint a picture.
All right, and then you can keep like editing the. Let me change it to view. You can keep editing everything. Like just again, remember to make sure your last frame and your first frame are the same. So you can keep like tweaking everything to make sure it's rotated correctly. Then I'll need to do it to the top as well. Oh. Copy the first to the last. Cool. And then finally, once I've done all of that, I'll do the hair and leftover bits. So the hair should probably go like that. So it's probably something like that. And then I can just copy that again. It's a bit stupid, actually. It looks a bit dumb. Oh, thought I had it. Cool. All right. It's not great, but whatever. And basically, you just spend a lot of time getting these parts right.
It's mad how like the tiniest details, like the earrings, make it look so.
It makes
much
it
better.
so much swayer, way swayer. Like those things are called secondary animations, and they're so much better with them than without. A million times better. They just make it feel more like alive. Like you're just trying to add in weight, basically. Yeah, the earrings. That's why I always like when you design stuff. How the hair looks so dumb. I'll fix the hair now. When you have designs, try to have those things where little things can move and jangle around and stuff, because they really do add to the motion. Obviously, don't add too much because you need to deal with all of them, but some of those do work. Get rid of that again. So let's just make only the little tip for hair. Cool.
I'm such a climbing a hill.
Yeah.
So she's climbing up.
Yeah, she might be bending too much. Like, so I could go back to the pelvis, just give them all a little bit of a height increase. Oh, this is awkward. And again, usually for games, remember though that like you do exaggerate a bit because you're usually not looking at the character. Like in animated movies, you're looking at the character very close up and they're right in front of the screen. They generally fill the whole screen. In games, not usually the case. So when they're small on the screen, you generally do make them way more bouncy. It looks ridiculous when you look up close. Oh, from far away, it looks grand. So every so often, just like that, and just zoom out and just have a look and see how it looks. And from far away, it actually looks grand. The last few things I might want to do is like, instead of her arms doing that, I might want to make it go forwards and back, like so more of a 3D. Like instead of just there, I might move that. So it kind of goes like that more so. There's a few things that you might want to put, and it just completely depends on the walk cycle you actually want to do. I would highly recommend looking at an actual walk cycle, like an actual person with a pelvis up.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
She's not just climbing a hill anymore.
Okay. Yeah. So I moved that in, but you see that's problem where it cuts through her hip. It's grand. I'll just need to make sure to move that out. So I'll have to have a keyframe there, so it goes there first. And then now she does like a strut with her arms instead of just forward and back. So let's try to do that with the other one. I know, I'm trying to go as fast as I can.
Are you on me?
No.
Oh, right.
Is that cutting through as well? It is, so I need to bump it up. Cool. So now she's got a lot more of a swayy walk. So yeah, it just depends what you want, really. And her hair should not only bounce up and down, should probably also swing left, side to side. So I think she should be like there. Yeah, it should be that way then. I'll copy this to the end. Don't like it.
She's walking to the dance floor.
Through the what?
The dance floor.
She's
Half dancing, half walking.
that's what she does. It's her job.
Just trying to find her next man. It's right now, though. That's shady, but I love her.
Well, it's you who are buying her album, so. Alright, cool. Alright, so let's say I have that, right? And then you can keep doing that. Just keep adding more and more animations. I'm showing you a walk and an idle, so that's it. For the final assignment, not this one is cinematic, but for the final, like you're going to have a cinematic for me, and then you're going to have a chibi character for me, and then you're going to have a non-chibi character, like a whatever your style you choose. that one will have to have, that final one will have to have walk, idle, maybe run if you want to run, jump and fall, hit the ground, that kind of stuff, right? So like basically I can put it on a character controller, run around, and your character walks in Unity as if it's like, you know, it follows exactly what I'm doing as a player. Does that make sense? I will go over the code and stuff for that, but that's later on. That's your final assignment, so don't worry about that for now. So when I've completed these, I can just keep going, adding more animations. But let's say I'm finished. Let's say I'm like, okay, I'm good with my idle and my walk. Let me go to the time configuration again and just have all of them. So everything from my idle to my walk is now showing the timeline. You can see if I scrub through it, it's scrubbing through. Cool. And all I need to do is export this. I'm going to select the RE model. And if I just export the RE model, it will bring the anything connected to it. So like the cat rig and all that stuff, it's all connected to it. So it'll bring all of it. So file, export, selected. I just don't want to hit export because I also have like text in the scene and a bunch of other stuff. So if you only want to export just that animated model, just click on that animated model. Export selected. I'm going to show RE walk only. Save as FBX. And in this case, you need to have the animation turned on. By default, it's not on. So you need to have the animation tab turned on. Okay. We don't care about media. I just leave it as default usually. The only time I don't leave it as default is if an animation isn't working correctly. I might bake animation, but usually there's a tick there for bake animation. But usually I just leave it and it's fine. So hit OK. It'll always give you an error. What do we do to errors?
Ignore them.
Yay! It's like our follower problem.
Oh god.
Cool. And I'm just going to bring it to Unity, show you how it looks like imported. And then that can be class for today. Okay.
Yeah, she made me yawn.
Thanks for the coffee, Nidia.
Wasn't me.
It wasn't, was it? Okay, I'm gonna make a new scene just to. Oh no, not new project. Jeez. File, new scene, assets, and I'm gonna create a new folder. So. I'm just going to import it into this folder. So right click, import new asset as always. Import that from where you saved it. I think I call it RE walk only. Yeah. Cool. And it imports. And it comes with the mesh as well as the animations. Okie dokes. Let me get the game window away. If I look at it to the right, there's the model. Grand. That's like the normal kind of model thing. It's basically the same as any of the FBXs you usually import. The only difference is now we need to care about the rig and the animation. So rig, honestly, I always leave it as generic. Pretty much always. You can change it to humanoid, which means you can do some other stuff with it. But I pretty much always leave it as generic. I never touch that. Then I go to animation. And animation is where I need to start setting up like the animation, because I export it as one giant timeline where both the animations go in there. Here's where I cut it up into like, here's the idle and here's the walk or whatever. I'm going to import constraints. Yes, I'm going to import animations. The animation compression is on by default. That will like try to make it cheaper. You can turn it off or turn it on. I don't think it makes a huge difference. But the most important thing is down here where it says clips. So let me do, what's our first thing? I did idle first, right?
Yeah.
All right, so if I do idle there, and does anyone remember what it was? It is 1 to 100. So let me just set the time starting at 1 all the way at 100. It is looping, so I will tick loop, which means it will know to loop. And just always test it. There's a little scene there that will play. Okay, I don't know if you all saw that little jitter. No?
You're broken.
You got it again? By the way, it is recorded. But I don't know if you can see, there's a tiny little jitter at the end. So that sometimes happens when it's got keyframe reduction. So even if I turn that off, I think it'll still kind of jitter.
don't see it.
It's less. You see it?
Oh,
See that? Little like.
yeah.
All right. So what that is, it's like, because it's compressing the keyframes, it's taking a little bit of the keyframe next to it, which is a bit silly and annoying. So what I need to do is I need to add a loop pose. Take that. Does that make it better? No, really. And I add an additive reference pose. And then you basically just play around with the numbers at the end. I usually make it 1 frame less, and then the pose frame 1 less frame than that. So I'll make it 99 and 98. So -1 for both of them. This should, yeah, you can see it's smooth now. Cool. Add another one, and this will be for the walk, which was basically the rest of it. So it's 101 to 130. Loop time again. Let's just see whether it does. It snaps as well. So again, same thing. Loop pose -1, 129, and -1 from that, 1, 2. That usually does work. Yeah, grand. Smooth as butter. So now I have this separated into 2 animations. If I open, I need to hit apply. If I open the FBX, you'll see the 2 animations there, idle and walk. And if I drag that into my scene, create an animator controller. This is all stuff you should know. And open that animation controller. I can just drag in that idle and walk. So by default, she will idle. Oh no, don't. It's going to maximize. Cool. So by default, she's idling. And if I set this to be the default, she'll do the walkie walk. And that's basically how you control it. So you generally will have like an empty game object with maybe collision and scripts and stuff on it. And this model will be a child of that. So I move the empty game object and tell the child to look like it's walking. So it's not actually moving it. It's like a container that moves and then the child moves with it. And that's animation.
Can you apply root motion with that animation as well?
Can if you want, yeah.
I don't actually move it as well.
Yes, but
Would you recommend that sort of stuff?
I don't, honestly. I usually just use an empty and try to do it. You should always, though, always have anything to do with code, interactions, scripts, blah, blah, on a different layer. So it'll be an empty game object.
It's on the top,
and then the
right?
animation, yeah, because you need to go where the top is, right? And then the actual, so I'll just do it
How
here.
did you get her to move? Did we just animate that movement? Or
Yeah, I have a holder that she's childed to, and then using the timeline controller, I animated that holder, and she's just walking. So she's just walking. So it looks like she's moving, but she's actually just walking in place. But because the holder is moving, it looks like she's moving. The same thing we'll do when we go to doing an actual little character controller. It's exactly the same. You're moving like a cylinder around or a capsule around, but the childed model will play a walking animation, so it looks like it's moving, and it'll also face the direction of where you're pointing towards. So it looks like the character's moving, but actually you're just moving a little capsule. It makes things so much easier. So any collision, physics, anything like that, all just reacts on the capsule or whatever it is, and the child, which is the animation, just reacts based on what you tell it to react to. So it'll look like it gets hurt or whatever like that, or jumps or walks and stuff, but it's actually just listening for instructions from the capsule, and then we'll play whatever the animation is. It makes it way handier than actually having it on, for many, many different reasons. So yeah, cool. That's basic animation, and I can stop streaming.